Hi, Jason. Do you hear me? Oh,
Hello.
hi. I think I did it. But Luke did say he noticed that live chat was enabled, but it's okay now.
Well, I just looked just now as I got the message and it looks like it's off, so I think you're okay.
Okay. Yeah, I went back in and I had clicked it all off, but I'm not sure why it was showing. But
Okay. Well, yeah,
okay.
it looks like comments and live chat are both off, so should be good.
Okay. All right. I
You got
think we're
her all
good.
set.
I
Yeah.
think so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
David, just so you know, you're not on mute. Good morning, everyone. We'll start in about a minute here.
I'm here. We'll see how my feed works out. I need new internet.
Yeah, that's too bad. I got to figure out, I need new lighting. I've got this spotlight on the top of my beacon here. So if you're all blinded, I apologize. Anyways, I've got 9:30. And my alarm just went off. So I'm going to call this meeting of Monday, September 14th of the Community Living Standard Committee to order. Taking attendance, we have Councillor Hughes, Councillor Jolly. I don't see Mayor Herron. I see Councillor Hanson joining us. And right now, and I apologize if I'm missing anybody else because I'm looking at just my screen. So if I miss anybody, I apologize, and I will identify other members of council if and when they join us. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Any revisions? Seeing none, then, pardon me, was anybody any?
No, I was going, yeah, thank you, Commissioner Mackay. I was going to say no, we had none.
Thanks. I like Commissioner. I think that's, I do like that. I like that. I see we're now joined by Mayor Herron. So I will just declare that the agenda is adopted for today. Thank you. Approval of the minutes. Well, I think I checked with appointments. There's nobody registered to speak. Am I correct again, unless anybody's since advised administration?
That is correct. There's nobody speaking.
Okay, thank you. So then I'll move on to number 5, approval of the minutes of July 13th. Did anyone see any reasons to make any changes to the minutes? I don't see anybody's hands up. So I will again declare that the minutes of the committee from July 13th are approved and adopted. Then moving on to new business. 6.1, CSAC recommendations, Community Capital Program grant allocation spring and fall. Is there a presentation? Is it just Anna, or are you going to introduce it, Carrie?
No, I'll turn it over to Anna Royer.
Thank you. Go ahead, Anna. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. I didn't have a large presentation, only just again to reiterate that we had 8 applications for the Community Capital Grant Program. We had a budget of $250,000. There were 8 applicants, and CSAC has made recommendations in regards to all 8 applicants and funding for all. 7 of the applicants were recommended for the full amount that they had requested. And then the 8th applicant, it was a partial funding recommendation. And with that, any questions that anyone may have, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Anna. Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. So I'm curious about the gymnastics one. So it's reduced funding is being recommended. Is that because kind of the pot of money ran out?
Yeah, that is mainly the reason. They felt the other 7 applicants were very strong, had excellent projects that they were bringing forward. Dynamics. Some of the things that the committee looked at were things such as, were the projects available free of charge or at a cost to community members? What is a volunteer base? Is it a municipally owned facility? And so all of these together, they did decide that Dynamics would be the one that would be reduced somewhat, although they still felt that 94,815 was a substantial amount as far as a grant to be provided.
So kind of going off of that, did they feel like that was kind of excessive for a private organization where kind of this isn't accessible to the public, or were they were comfortable with that?
They were comfortable. I believe that they were not comfortable with anything higher than that. That certainly they felt that would be enough of a grant for them.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Just a follow-up question, Anna. So the $65,000 for playground equipment in Quincheo, that seems to be a fairly standard ask for playground replacement equipment. I think CSAC in previous years have recommended similar amounts for other playground replacements. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we did have a policy change last year. It used to be 60,000 was the max, and now it's up to 100,000. So with the 65,000, they felt strongly with the playground projects as usual. I mean, it's open to the whole community. They're free of charge. It's a volunteer base that is really fundraising and building those playgrounds. So they were very supportive of the playground projects.
A question of the Star of the North retreat, and it just kind of came to mind in relation to your response to Councillor Jolly, sorry. Around the use, are we finding that that's a lot of community use by other organizations in Star of the North, or do they get a lot of use from outside of our community? And do we get anything back from that as a community? For example, I don't think there's any financial compensation for any of their programs, correct?
No, there isn't. They do have both community use and they do offer their private programs, but they do have different community groups that do utilize their facility or rent their facilities for their programs. Many of their programs are related to the vulnerable sector or, different people in need. I know AA does their programs out of there as well. So we have in the past as well provided funding to Star of the North. It's not an unusual request.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember from my time being on this committee that Star of the North would come to us as permitted in relation to the rules, I guess, or the format. So I'm 30 again. Just remind me. So out of their total budget request is 91,665. That's for their entire project. What is the amount? What is the most that we're allowed to give? Is it 1/3?
1/3, right? Correct.
Okay, that's just in case somebody's watching and wondering in relation to the processes. In the Nordic Ski Club, do they just groom all of our trails? They don't groom like Riverlot 56, do they? Or do they also groom Riverlot 56? I see Councillor Jolly. Okay.
Yeah.
So so by allowing them to do this, no concerns in relation that they're outside trails, outside of our boundaries, outside of city of St. Albert River Valley proper?
No, there hasn't been, and I mean our community loves those trails, and again, a volunteer-run organization. There's absolutely no cost to the community. River Lot. Many people in St. Albert feel that the River Lot is part of our community and have really embraced it. So that question did not come up at all. There was no concern with that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that response. Councillor Jolly's got her hands up again. Go ahead.
So Councillor Hughes, did you want to go before me? You're good. So I just kind of a follow-up. I thought that the 65,000 was the maximum that playgrounds could apply for. Did they know that the policy changed and they could apply for up to 100,000? Because I believe their ask was 65.
Yes, they did, but that was 1/3. It was up to 1/3 of their project as well.
So 65 is 1/3 of the project.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's all I have.
Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. So what I'm wondering is, and it's probably in the policy, Anna, but I'm just going to cheat and ask you right now, so having to read it. So do we have any requirements that have to be not for profit, or is it even for profits that can apply for this?
They have to be a registered not-for-profit
Okay.
in good standing for at least 5 years.
Okay, got it. Because I'm thinking, so Dynamics is considered not for profit then.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. And if we ever do well, I'm sure at some point we'll be doing another revision of this. I'm looking at thinking that we should be considering doing a cap. Anything outside the playgrounds, because playgrounds are ridiculously expensive, definitely used by the community. I think there should be a lower cap so that we don't have the potential of someone taking the bulk of the money that 1 year, just because it happens to be available, for example. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with one taking so much of the pot right now, I guess is where, and I think others may be sharing that same concern. Is just anyone, regardless of how their merit, prefer to see it given to a few more, or just save it for the following year, or put it back in capital. But that's the one area that I'm having a little bit of a difficult time with right now, is that much money just to one organization. Or that we have a requirement that it has to be complete community use to be excessive of a certain amount, like 60,000. And if it's not, it has to be available to the full community. Something of that nature, of a 2-tier system, might be some way that we could address this going forward. Just because I think that if we are going to give a lot of money to one organization, I would like to make sure that everybody in the community has the opportunity to use it without restrictions.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes, and those points were some of the same ones that CSAC did discuss, and have made note. Again, I think, as I mentioned last week, we're starting on a grant a review and a grant management process. So taking all kinds of feedback in relation to grants and to exactly some of the points that you have made. So duly noted.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's it for now.
Councillor Jolly?
Thank you. Just kind of adding to that discussion, Councillor Hughes. I think that the grant review is great, and your suggestions for kind of updating that policy are great. In the meantime, I wouldn't be opposed to this committee kind of recommending a lower amount, and then recommending that kind of the balance goes into kind of goes forward to next year, you know, in case there is a playground or a what have you. So I just throw that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, this might be just a one-off. Can we remember a request like similar to the gymnastics club ever before in relation to the size? I don't recall anything quite that large.
Curling.
Well, there was the 98,000 for updates to their plant, but that was required for kind of
Safety. Yeah.
Safety. But nothing in relation to 250, nothing for the whole amount of the grant. So
No,
nothing that big. Okay, so this might be a one-off, but I support the idea of a cap. Mayor Hare? I can't hear you. Your speaker's not working. Yeah. Sorry, Mayor Hare. And you just keep going up.
What do you mean up?
Well, your volume was low.
It's my microphone. Is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's still a little quiet. But
I'll get a new one. I'm just wondering if Councillor Jolly is proposing an amended motion, because I would support what she's talking about. I just don't know what number she's thinking.
I'm thinking in the 60 to 65 range. I don't know what council thinks.
That sounds about right.
for the actual grant to the gymnastics club, or just a cap, maximum cap?
No, I
for
think
everything?
because that's a policy change, we can't really do that right now. I would suggest that we have a motion that maybe changes that one number for dynamics. We also maybe have a secondary motion, as Councillor Jolly said, to carry that money forward within the grant. So we would have 250 plus a little bit next year. And then maybe a third motion to amend the policy. I don't know, Anna, when is it planned to be looked at again?
The policy, we don't have because we just reviewed it. There's no
Right.
immediate plan, although we're doing that grant review. So there may be some broad changes coming forward. We still don't know exactly what those would be, but that'd be next spring.
Okay, that's probably soon enough, because this is just a once a year intake, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe even just a third motion that says to amend the policy to look at, I like the idea of a two-tiered. I like the idea of a max, and I like the idea of a two-tiered when it's open to the whole community, or if it's for more of a club. So, Councillor Jolly, do you want to frame that, or do you?
Genius
I
idea.
can't. I just was wondering where your head was going.
I just have some questions just for clarification then. I don't have a problem potentially with what you've just outlined. My sense would be for this year, this is the program, and I know that we had two other organizations initially and they dropped out. Is that not correct, Anna? Or is that wrong?
That was for the community event grant program.
Okay. Thank you. That was for the next one. All right, thank you. So I mean, I just for clarity then into senses, so would you're looking at potentially providing a recommendation to council from the committee of reducing Dynamics to a maximum number, a cap number?
I'd say 65.
I can move that if committee wants me to do that.
So we could say that the Community Living Standing Committee recommend to council that the following applications for the Community Capital Grant Program be approved with the amendment to the Dynamics Gymnastics Club of.
Well, I would just read them out. So.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
For 65,000 and so forth. So,
Okay.
and then I would certainly recommend, I know Councillor Hughes is good at wordsmithing last minute, but a secondary motion saying that.
Oh, did it work?
All right. Okay, so has Ledge Services got that written down? I'm looking in chat right now. I don't see anything yet.
Yes, I have it to reduce Dynamics in the table with the recommendations, and then the other motion, I'm just waiting to find out exactly what the committee wants.
All right, well, we
had a
go ahead.
question. I'm not sure if it's necessary. I can't remember which way we went back and forth. Is it currently rolling over if we don't spend it all, Anna?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that amendment was just made last fall as well too.
Mhm.
So it's
So we don't need a
automatically
motion,
carried
yeah.
forward.
Okay.
No.
Great.
No.
And then
So
I'm not sure if the third motion is really necessary. I'm just wondering, if we're doing the grant review, if we're going to cover it anyway. And we already have that in the back of our mind. So I'm thinking we could certainly do it, but I also just think it'd be kind of redundant. So I'm not sure the rest of the committee feels, but that's kind of where my head's at right now. I'm willing to do it, but I
guess it's
I'm not,
just more of a question for Anna. Is it redundant?
Yes, I would say at this time, because I have made notes of that and it will be looked at as well too.
all right, so we just have, I agree with, I think if the review is ongoing, I think that we're, I don't know whether or not we have to say we need to do a review unless you have specifics around it, but I think we can do that through a different way. All right, so I've got I think we're staying with the one recommendation, then motion from, are you going to put that forward, Councillor Jolly?
Sure.
All
Ready
right,
for that?
I'm ready for it. I just, are you going to put it in chat, Cheryl? Or-
So that I've got it here, that the Community Living Standing Committee recommend to council that the following applications for the Community Capital Grant Program be approved. Dynamics Gymnastics for $65,000, Kinesheo Parents Fundraising Association for $65,000, SAM Fundraising Society for $19,000, St. Albert and District Further Education Association for $2,873, St. Albert Men's Slow Pitch for $31,888, St. Albert Nordic Ski Club for $3,773, St. Albert Tennis Club for $2,096, and Star of the North for $30,555.
All right, before I accept that, any other questions in relation to the recommendation? Okay, not seeing any, I will accept that. Thank you. Anything to open, or are we pretty well discussed?
I've talked out.
Okay, good. Or not good, you know what I mean. Okay, anything in debate? Anybody else? Okay, I don't know whether I'm going to support it. I understand it. I think that's really good. I just think that with the idea that this is the process that we currently have, this is what we're moving forward, this is what was recommended by the committee. I'm more than willing to move forward with it as it is this year. I think next year going forward, for all the reasons that we were identified, I think then that's the rules, and then that's what everybody has to follow. So I don't know whether I will support that, but I do think that there should be a cap, but I'm just saying this is the way that the current system is. And I recognize council can move up or down on the amount recommended from CSAC, but I'm just saying that's currently where we are with the capital grant program. So I just don't think it's fair to the applicant. Anyways, that's my comments. Anything else? Anything in closing?
Councillor Hughes has her hand up.
Oh, I apologize. It's hard. It is really hard when you're looking at little pixels. I apologize for missing you, Councillor Hughes.
It's okay. Thanks, Natalie. You know what? I'm still going to support this. I think that regardless of whether we change it or not, the intention of this is where the direction we're heading into. $65,000 is still a lot of money. And the capital community grant program was about to be cut this year, and we're still giving out the money this year. So this is still, in my opinion, money that potentially would have been a zero had we not actually continued with this. But what I also look at is that next year, I'm expecting more community organizations to come forward as things start opening up. There's going to be a higher demand. We did not increase the budget. And I'm also looking at the potential of, if I had to choose between giving that money to a playground next year that comes forward, or having to give an extra 30,000 to this one organization just because we have not yet changed the policy, I'd rather be able to make sure that those playgrounds are actually met. So I'm just looking forward at like projecting forward of what we could potentially have next year, and an oversubscription could possibly happen. And this would be allowing us to do this. So in my opinion, like I was thinking, yeah, we could wait till next year, but if the intention is that we have caught something that we would have done had we been able to implement it now, we might as well implement it now with that recognition. And $65,000 is not chump change. So that's what I'd say.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments? Anything to close, Councillor Jolly? All right, I will call the question. All in favor of the recommendation of the motion? I have Councillor Jolly, Councillor Hughes, Mayor Herron, and I'm opposed. So 3-1, it carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to 6.2, which is a community events part. I'm opening up multiple screens here, Anna, so please forgive me as I'm jumping around. Did everybody else's package have this a duplicate in there as well? I had a duplicate in mine. So go ahead, Anna, with the next one.
Okay, so CSSC also reviewed the community event grant applicants, and we had originally 3, but then we had 2 that withdrew just prior to the CSAC meeting. So there was only the one that was reviewed for the Taste of Africa event, February of 2021. And CSAC was very supportive of this event and recommended the full amount of $5,000. There was some concern that whether or not this event would be able to be held. It's in the Arden Theatre, and I certainly assured them that, in the event it wasn't, then that funding would be returned to the city. So at this point in time, we can only do what we know, I guess, or what we expect to happen. So in good faith, they did recommend the $5,000.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. So what I'm curious about is just, was there discussion about how many people they were expecting to have? Or because the previous one had 500,
yeah,
and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to meet that. So not that shouldn't be able to receive the funding. I'm just wondering what they were expecting to have as attendance.
That question was not asked to the group. And again, I know that they are well aware that they may have to modify, change the seating, and that's something they'll have to look at as they get closer to the event. The funding, the actual checks would be not sent out probably till closer to the end of December, because it is 2020 funding. It needs to be sent out this year. So again, we'll have to make sure there is a solid plan in place before that money is distributed.
Okay, and so, and if there's any concerns about it not going forward, we'll just, in spite of the fact that council's approved it, will we need another motion to rescind it? Or we'll just simply, they'll just expect them to withdraw, I guess, if they can't.
Yeah, and most of these groups, you know, one of the groups that withdrew was the Legion with Remembrance Day. And I mean, the money was to be for their band and the parade and whatnot. So they have to go on a severely modified, so they didn't require that funding now. They're still waiting to know exactly how they have to have their event. Taste of Africa will be similar to that, in that they're moving forward at this point, but they may have to withdraw. And at the end of the day, if they do receive the 5,000, they will return it if the event doesn't go forward. So it's not about a motion from council. It's about, they will come forward and say, no, we're not able to have that. Or we may say, you're not able to hold the event as per your planning because you haven't taken in account all the COVID requirements that you need to do.
Okay. And then how much money do we still have left in that? Because like, since we're only taking potentially 5,000, there's a lot left in that pot, right?
There's a fair amount, yes. And that just goes to the city bottom line.
Okay, so we'll be rolling that over to handle the deficit then, I'm assuming. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. I guess this is probably to Mr. Hiltz. If this event, say, were to be happening this month, what kind of restrictions would be put on an event like this kind of being held indoors? Can you speak to kind of the expectations for groups in terms of submitting a plan to the city?
Yeah, if it is an organization that has a direct partnership with the city, we would expect them to put their plan together, and that plan would have to meet AHS guidelines and be reviewed by the EOC. If it's a outside organization that doesn't really have a direct line to the city, the expectation is that they work under the guidelines of Alberta Health Services. So I'm not sure if the relationship on this is a direct tie into the city, but the expectation is that regardless, that they would have to meet the Alberta Health guidelines right now for the number of people for indoor events, the social distancing, hygiene stations, all those things would have to all be in place for it to happen.
Okay, so things like from what I understand, like buffet kind of style eating is not allowed. It would have to be plated. Right. So I guess they know kind of that they have to do like a plated, served, sitting down kind of situation.
Yeah.
I'd ask Anna, do you have any details on, did they give you any type of outline of how they were looking at running the event?
They haven't yet. When they first applied, I mean, it was back in March, April. So as we get closer, and again, they basically rent the Arden Theatre for this and Progress Hall. So the Arden Theatre also, in order for the event to occur, needs, as you said before, will need to provide them their plan and how they plan to meet, and they have requirements there. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of conversation as we start to move forward, whether or not that event will be able to take place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a question arising. So out of that 5,000 that was it for, did they itinerize what they were actually going to use it for? Was it for the part of the entertainment? It wasn't basically due to pay for the Arden, was it? Because that's one of the challenges I always had. You're paying for a service, you're taking out of one pocket and putting in another pocket, basically.
Yeah, it was partly for the rental of the Arden Theatre, also for their performers, a number of the honorariums for the performers and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it without obviously doing it. This is just more of my comment. I just, it just seems odd that we grant $5,000 to a community organization and then charge them money to use a community facility. So I don't know. Yeah, that's me only. Anything, Mayor Heron? Councillor Hanson, anything? All right, thank you very much. Can I get any other further questions then? Nothing? Thanks. Can I get somebody to make the recommendation then, please? Go ahead, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. And Councillor Mackay, I think the reason why you think it's a duplicate, like when you see it, is just because the minutes came in twice because it was the same meeting and we're trying to do separate sets of recommendations. So then it seems confusing, but it's just because they were being thorough. Yeah.
And I'm easily confused too, so.
There you go. But it's good you noticed. It was good. So the Community Living Standing Committee recommended to Council that the following application for the Community Events Grant Program be approved. Africans and African Descent Friendship Club of St. Albert for $5,000.
Thank you. I'll accept that. Any comments?
I appreciate that they're going to try to move forward because there's been so many community events that have been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many this year, and it's had such an impact. I think, just to the morale of people in St. Albert in the community. So, I'm not confident that we're actually going to end up giving the $5,000 at the end of the year, but I really do appreciate the fact that they're going to try to put their best effort forward to try to see if they can make this happen. And so I'm willing to support them in their efforts as they try to, the next few months, try to navigate all the requirements that they need to do to be able to have the celebration take forward. And if it does, it would be a great thing. So
thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Anything, Councillor Jolly? Nothing. Well said, Councillor Hughes. I agree. And this is such a wonderful organization. I mean, this. I was unfortunately not able to go to their last event, but I've heard nothing but great things about it, and I'm excited, and I hope it works. But who knows what February is going to bring. So anyways, all the best to them and good luck, and I'll end it there. Anything to close?
You know, I wish that there had been more. I guess I was hoping that there were more, at least planned community events for us to look forward to. And there's only one, and I thank them for the one, but I was really hoping that we would have some more things for the community to look forward to in short term.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. Call the question then. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item of business, 6.3, Mayor's Celebration of the Arts. Who's presenting on that one?
Tamsin Brooks is going to present.
Oh, hi, Tam. Welcome. You're still on mute.
Great.
There you go. Thank you.
Sorry. I have a presentation to share, so I'm just going to share my screen. If you can tell me if you see it.
There it is.
Okay, and you can hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, you just have to move to the slideshow and then we're away.
Okay, great. So I'm here today to present the proposed policy for the Mayor's Celebration of the Arts Awards. I'll go briefly through some of the changes, definitions, and duties as outlined in the draft policy, and can field any questions at the end. On January 27th, a notice of motion was given to administration to create a draft policy guiding the Mayor's Celebration of the Arts Awards, and also that administration look at event frequency. In the proposed policy, NAR administration recommends that the Mayor's Awards move to a biannual event where every second year the budget is reduced to $12,150 per year to reflect a budget for carry forward in non-event years. This proposed policy would replace and rescind the Cultural Wall of Fame policy. The proposed categories for the policy are the categories we have used for the last several years and were chosen as they are the ones that garnered the most nominations and that cover the wide spectrum of artistry in St. Albert. And they are Arts Champion, Emerging Artist, Established Artist, Excellence in Arts Teaching, Youth Artist, and Lifetime Achievement in the Arts. When possible, administration aligned the definitions with the standardized definitions from the Canada Council for the Arts. As indicated, the Lifetime Achievement Award and Cultural Wall of Fame have been incorporated into this policy, and those definitions are highlighted for your reference here. Roles and responsibilities proposed roles and responsibilities are listed as above. Administration would promote and receive nominations and pass the information on to the jury, and they would plan and promote the event. The Arts Development Advisory Committee would promote nominations and the event and select jury and recommend recipients to council. And the mayor would attend the event to present the awards and send letters of congratulations to nominees and recipients. The changes and efficiencies resulting from the new policy are: the Cultural Wall of Fame policy could be rescinded as the new mayor's Celebration of the Arts Awards policy incorporates this policy, and that there would only be one person selected for the Lifetime Achievement, down from 3. The jury will be selected by the Arts Development Advisory Committee and will recommend recipients to council prior to the awards being handed out. Options for your consideration are: the frequency of the event. Administration could continue on planning an annual event or change it to a once per council term event. As for the budget, we could transfer the budget in off years directly back to the general operations of the corporation, or we could direct a portion of the budget in off years to supplement the monetary awards for the recipients, with the remainder of the budget to go back to the coffers. And that's it. Are there any questions?
Councillor Kai, I don't know if you're talking to yourself right now, but you're on mute.
Oh, thank you very much. I apologize. Thank you. I'm just asking Tam if she can unshare her screen. Thank you very much. It's just hard to see the little pixels. I apologize. Thanks, Councillor Hughes. Any questions of Tam or Paul? Go ahead, Councillor Jolly.
Thank you. Not so much a question, but I guess to kind of other committee members. Certainly I'm supportive of the second recommended motions having to do with the budget. But kind of just putting feelers out, what are thoughts on delaying putting this in front of council until our new arts committee can look at it? So that could really be that could be their February meeting to review this policy and provide recommendations, which is kind of the point of the committee, to have a second set of eyes look at it.
I don't have a problem with that. I just timing, I guess. Timelines, I don't think there's any rush other than potentially for the Night of the Artist, if they were still going to align or try to figure out what they were going to do. Any comments, Paul, or for timing wise? Go ahead, Mayor Herron, if you want to respond.
Sure. Quick question. Was Phil Elaine involved with any of the thought process? I did send him a quick email on the weekend. They sound completely up in the air about whether Night of the Artist is going to continue or not. I'm just wondering if Tam or Paul, if you had any conversations with Phil about that.
I've been emailing back and forth with Phil as well. They are quite up in the air about next year. They are having an event in this November, but I get the impression that they'll have to revisit next year, so it's hard to tell.
Okay. My thought process was that anything that we do with Mayor Celebration really affects Night of the Artist, because they're really very integrated. For 2021, are we planning on a Mayor Celebration for 21?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And then if this policy was to change, then we would start an every 2-year cycle after that.
Correct.
Is that correct? Which I think is good. I think the arts community has been hit so hard in the last 9 months. Really, it's just been devastated. So I'd like to see it happen in 21. Maybe as a bit of a pick-me-up for our arts community, and then go to 2 years. Councillor Jolly's question about whether the new committee should review the policy is actually a very good one. And I don't see a rush on this because we're planning it for 21 anyway. So, Sir Carrie, it probably would affect budget. You would need to know if you're putting $12,000 or $24,000 in this fall's budget, wouldn't it?
That would be correct. But if we are running the event in 22, 21. I guess that we could carry forward, or we would have to.
I think we returned it all to the deficit,
okay.
so we would have to
Yeah.
put 24 in this budget
Yeah,
cycle anyway.
would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I wouldn't mind having the new committee take a look at this policy. I think that's what we have brought them in for with that expert eye, but I'm just really glad to hear that we're going to try to do something in 21. I've talked to Carol Watamaniak, our lifetime achievement recipient, and she was absolutely willing to wait until the next mayor celebration to receive her award. So we should probably do that in 21 and not make her wait much longer than that.
It is a lifetime.
To wait for it, yes.
Wait just to get it, yeah. Can Paul or Tam or somebody else on the call, when was the Arts Committee going to be standing up? Sorry.
January.
We will be, yeah,
January?
we will be advertising the positions this October. So, or for the committee this October. So that would be a January start.
So no, this wouldn't have much meaning at all. I mean, it would fit right into that timeline. So I like the idea. Councillor Jolly. Thoughts, Councillor Hughes, anything? No. All right.
Oh, I have one more question.
Sure, absolutely. Go ahead, Mayor.
The background said that Night of the Artist was going to qualify for $9,000 from the stimulus fund. Is that was for 20 or 21?
I believe this is the last year of their funding, so it's 20.
20.
Okay, but we didn't do it in 20, so can they carry that forward to 21?
They're going ahead with their event though in November of 20.
In November, so that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, we might need to have a
Now.
conversation. Yeah, we might need to have a conversation at another date about supporting Night of the Artists as a combined event with Mayor Celebration, because I don't think Mayor Celebration would be nearly as successful without the artists there, and vice versa. So I don't know what that would look like in support for maybe just one last year, an extension of the stimulus, just to get to do a big celebration in 21 and then re-envision it for 23 if it's 2 years later.
What would be involved in that though? Because that's part of funding from a specific.
It's a expired program now, essentially.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Yeah.
if they use the entire amount this time, we wouldn't be able to extend it. We would actually
No,
have to have.
but
a
they might
budget.
qualify for a community events grant or something like that.
Okay. I mean, I guess as long as they're aware of that, because the community festival funding is ending. So.
Oh yeah, they're very well aware. Yeah.
Okay, I agree. Can I ask a question? When we were researching this, did we look at what other mid-sized cities were doing, such as Red Deer, Grand Prairie, Airdrie, Lethbridge, around similar events?
No, I haven't done that. I know Edmonton does one, and I don't believe. I don't know. I can't speak to that. Sorry.
I think, go ahead, Councillor Jolly. I do know, just a quick search from looking online. I know Lethbridge has one. I know Red Deer has a Mayor's Recognition Awards. Airdrie has a special event, but I don't know how that funding is there or not. But I think that might be worthwhile having that in the backgrounder for the Arts Committee whenever it stands up. Go ahead, Councillor Jolly.
I would just comment that I attend a lot of these events, as you know, and most of them, you know, even with really big awards, like $10,000, $15,000 awards for artists, they're spending more on what they're giving to the artists than they are on the party. And I think that's really appreciated. Because as Mayor Aaron said, like it's rough for artists right now. So I would just throw that out there, that I mean, the recognition is more important than how big the party is, in my experience. So I would throw that out there. And I'm delighted that we'll be doing this in 2021. We're going to need it.
I think that's fair comment, and I appreciate the comment. I think also, though, I think a part of it is a celebration too, and a celebration for the community, and certainly combined as it has been in the past. I mean, certainly for myself, who probably isn't certainly as far removed from the artist community, but certainly appreciates it. I enjoy that evening, but I think though that it would just have some. I think there'd be some benefit of seeing what other communities our size provide, whether it's funding, whether it's the actual night itself. So I think that would be something you should add, maybe Paul or Tam, to the backgrounder. Anyways, so is there a recommendation that we postpone this then?
Just refer it, I would say, to the Arts Committee.
Okay, so can I get a amendment to the recommendation then? So I mean, we wouldn't need B then, and we wouldn't need C. And
I say we just refer the whole report.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So it's just that the Community Living Standard Committee recommend to council that we're referring the report. And
yeah, it doesn't even have to go to council,
No.
Ken. I think our
Yeah.
committee can do the referring right over to the,
oh, you think you're right. Go ahead, Councillor Hanson.
What about the budget scenario of 12,000 to 24? Doesn't that have to be dealt with today?
I think it was said that because we're planning the event next year, the full 24 is going in for the 2021 budget.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah. So the fact that it is going ahead in 2021, we would need that as part of the budget going forward for this year, or 2021, pardon me. You don't like that? I could
Cheryl
tell.
put something in the chat for a motion.
Thank you very much.
I would just add to the motion that Cheryl wrote, and that the matter be brought back to council by, I don't know, Q2 of 2021 or something like that. So it's a little bit.
Does that timeline work for you, Carrie?
It should. Paul, do you have any comments on that? Do you think you'd be able to make it between April and June of 2021 back?
Absolutely. And maybe even going, depending on how the committee goes, as quickly as possible to give us as much time as possible to plan an event. Again, we don't know what COVID things are going to look like. So having the committee have a discussion and refer the matter to council earlier is always better, just as far as our planning timelines go.
Okay, I see that it's been updated to come back to council by Q2 2021. Anything, Councillor Hughes? Go ahead.
I'm wondering, Paul, if I'm actually thinking Q1. If they have their first meeting in January, they could do it January, February, and off the top, I don't see a ton of revisions that probably need to happen. So I'm thinking it might be minor, if anything. I just want to appreciate the fact that they can provide this input, but I'm not expecting a complete overhaul. So I'm thinking if they were to look at it January, we should be able to see it by February. So I'm actually thinking that it should be no later than April, and they said just so that it's clear. And if you can do it in March, great. Is kind of just so everybody has the most time possible. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but you're nodding, and if that's possible, I think I'd rather do that just so that there's no confusion.
I think if we put in Q1 2021.
Yeah, if we can move to Q1, that would be awesome. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, David's just added something there to Arts Development Advisory Committee. Just put the proper name for it. So can I get any other comments, any other discussion? All right, can I get somebody to make that recommendation? Councillor Jolly, do you want to do that? Or Councillor or Mayor Aaron, pardon me, do you want to do that?
Go for it.
Go ahead, Mayor Aaron, you threw your arm up. How's your shoulder? You threw it up so fast?
I just figured because my name's attached to this thing, I might want to make the motion.
Yeah, no, that's a good call.
That the Mayor's Celebration of Arts matter be referred to the Art Development Committee.
Advisory Committee.
Sorry, Advisory Committee, and be brought back to council by, we said Q1, right?
Correct.
Or 220, right, of 21. Okay.
Okay, anything to open? Comment?
Honestly, I think the work on this has been really quite positive. So I thank Paul and Tam. I think it's always good to revisit these kind of events, and and given COVID and our financial struggles, this is a good compromise. I'm glad we're not going to once a term, because really this shouldn't have anything to do with who the mayor is or who the council is. It's about the artists in the community that's goes on and on forever. So it doesn't matter who's sitting in the chair. So every second year is great. And I think people will miss it in the year off, and they'll be more excited to see it come back the following year. So I think it might have a little bit of excitement built in around it. So appreciate the work.
Great. I concur. Good comments. Anybody else want to add to the comments? Don't see anything. All right, anything to close then?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay, call the question. Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tam. I appreciate that. 6.4, request to withdraw from Heritage Advisory Reserve Fund. Go ahead, Paul.
All right, I don't have a formal presentation for you. I do have a couple of notes that I'll make before questions. So the recommendation is that the Community Living Standing Committee recommend to Council that $16,400 be withdrawn from the Heritage Reserve Fund to support the hiring of a consultant to update the heritage inventory and properties of interest lists. So one of the top priorities of the Heritage Advisory Committee is to review, update, and expand the 2010 St. Albert Heritage Inventory. That was when the last one was done. The committee has worked with city procurement staff to gather proposals and proposals to update the inventory. All city policies and procedures have been followed, and the successful bid came in at $81,400. The committee currently has $65,000 in their budget for this project, leaving a balance of $16,400 that they are requesting be withdrawn from the reserve. The uncommitted balance in that reserve as of July 29th is $125,000. It's important to note that this is a different reserve from the Historic Sites Reserve, from which we are withdrawing the funds to support the maintenance of the grain elevators. This is an operating reserve into which the committee operating surplus at the end of each year is deposited. So into that surplus, $65,000 was deposited in 2018 and $60,000 in 2019. And just a final note about the council debate around transferring or rescinding the Heritage Advisory Committee bylaw. Regardless if that goes forward or not, this work can still happen and needs to happen. All of the work has gone into this, and staff can adequately see this project through to the end, which we were going to do anyways, regardless of the status of the committee. So that's it for my notes.
Thanks, Paul. Can you advise me what the Heritage Reserve Fund would normally be used for? $125,000. Like, what have we drawn from it other than just, is this just a good example?
So the budget for this committee is $65,000 a year, and that is by policy. That money is there to support the designation of historic sites in St. Albert. So it's supposed to go to homeowners as well as for things like consultants. The committee has only spent $5,000 out of its budget since its existence. So all of its operating budget has just been rolled over each year.
How how well known is this fund even? Like I don't think too many people even know about it. Is this part of, I mean, we have this money set aside for exactly what you've described, and I honestly can't remember even hearing about it.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, this is the work of the committee to get the word out and to recommend withdrawals from the fund. There was one property that was interested, I believe, at some point, but they never followed through on the rest of the process. So the next big thing on the committee's task list was to update this inventory, and then homeowners could be approached and informed about this opportunity.
So the idea of the work plan that the consultant's going to do would be actually physically identifying potential historical sites, and then if they were a residence, they would go up and knock on the door and say, would you like to be designated a historical site?
In essence, I guess, yes, maybe not walking up and knocking on the door, but also identifying these properties in case the owners put in development permits to change, then we could flag it in the system that way as well. So
how much work do you think is done between in the subsequent 10 years since the last time the heritage inventory was updated? Is it significant?
In all honesty, I can't answer that question. I'd have to do a bit of research and maybe talk to Anne over at AHF.
Okay. So I mean, so when the 10-year went out, we went out, we didn't have a number. They just came in and that was the bid, right? The 81,400.
Correct.
So if we said, now all we have is $65,000 in the reserve, what do you think would get lost?
Well, we'd have to look at going with another one of the proponents, and I'd have to look at what the deficiencies in those proposals were to answer that question. So off the top of my head, I can't really say.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate that, because I must admit I'm a little, I'm a little. Oh, anyways, I'll quit that. Any other comments from any member of council, or pardon me, Mayor Herron?
Okay, thank you. So the 65,000 is an annual allocation in the budget, is that correct?
Correct.
And then if it's not spent, it goes into the Heritage Reserve Fund.
Correct.
Honestly, I did not know that.
That's what I said.
That's a new one for me, and we might want to have a conversation about that, Carrie, because I'm confused about that one.
Yeah.
But for this specific project, and Paul, I'm going to ask a question. I'm almost embarrassed to ask it because it sounds stupid, but I'm going to have to ask it because it might be on everyone's mind. We did a heritage inventory 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What would change?
That's what I asked.
Like, honestly, there's no more old buildings popping up. There's no more heritage resources showing up that weren't there 10 years ago. So I'm really confused why we need to do this.
My house is 10 years older.
Please help me with that. Yeah, exactly. The house is 10 years older, but that doesn't make it a heritage house. So,
Yeah.
And of course, I haven't been on the Heritage Advisory Committee, and I haven't been privy to a lot of the conversations. I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling in doing the inventory at all. Not the withdrawal of 81 or even 65, but just even why we're doing it at all when we have a good inventory.
That's a really good question. I personally can't answer that. I haven't been at any of the meetings. Tamsin, you have been at the meetings. Can you provide any sort of background? I know Councillor Watkins is the councillor on that committee. So.
I think the motivation behind updating the inventory is it is standard practice to update every 10 years. And there may have been houses that were missed on the initial inventory. And I think specifically there have been properties that were on the initial inventory that were modified. For example, someone built on a second story to a property that was on the inventory, which would void that property. So I actually think it is fairly important to update the inventory as they have recommended.
Thanks,
That
Tamsin.
makes sense, yeah.
Councillor Hanson, did you have your hand up just in relation? You are the alternate on that committee, or are you now sitting on that committee?
I am the council liaison.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Committee. I think, Tamsin, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Really, the work has already begun, has it not?
In what respect?
Or is it just that we are literally just hiring the consultant now? I thought that actually some of the work had started and we were in it. I think actually the person to be talking to about this and the cost of this and the importance of this with Tamsin is Anne from AHF. She's got a really good handle on this. She has a lot of confidence in the consultant, And I think it's one of these things that we don't hear about because it's not work that gets done every year. It's something that has to be done. The time, it's basically come up on the cycle of, things to get done around heritage sites. So we're all sitting here asking questions about why it should be done. And it's because these things aren't done for a long time, then they need to be done. Now's the time. The consultant's been picked. And Anne with Tamsin is very much in the know about it. So, you know, I hope that from my point of view, I hope that the committee approves this recommendation.
Have we, where would I find the 2010 work?
It's on the website.
Okay, so it's identified. Is this, does this have something to do, and Mayor Herron or Councillor Hughes, does this have something to do going back to Mill Street and all of that was going on around the discussions that were happening around that?
I mean, I think that was the impetus for the birth of the advisory committee, but the inventory was around long before the 11 Mill Street conversation started, and I believe 11 Mill Street is not. Is it identified, Tam, as a heritage site? I'm sure it is, right? But she has not yet applied for the status. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay, help me, Tamsin or Paul. I mean, so a homeowner of a heritage site identified. What does that mean? What does that do? What is that? I mean, I know in other communities such as Edmonton, if you're a designated historical site, there's limitations in relation to what you can modify. There's potentially, possibly even limitations even. You're not allowed to do that. Are we doing something similar here, or no? It's just basically you can apply for it for the knowledge and kind of so-called prestige of being a heritage site?
No, it's similar here as well. There's some rezoning that is involved, and then homeowners are responsible to maintain the home in that heritage up to that heritage standard, which is why the budget exists, to help homeowners do that.
So, okay, but so far nobody, $5,000 has only been used to avail themselves of that.
Correct.
I mean, I think it's a worthwhile. I mean, if somebody was going to buy a historical or a designated property, these things are extraordinarily expensive to maintain, and I would imagine that they would appreciate some help. But I'm just saying, wow, this is just, I wasn't truly aware that we even had this program. So I don't know where you want to leave this. I'm looking for other committee members.
I think, sorry, Councillor Mackay, the inventory, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, Tam, identifies the potential.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, 11 Mill Street is identified as a potential heritage site, but it's the owner's decision to take it to the next step and apply for the designation. And then you're right, once the designation is there, it has restrictions, much like our own city hall has restrictions on what you can and can't do to it. So it could add value, or it could make it a deterrent to sell. It's a big decision for a homeowner to take. And that's why the city's put this money aside to assist that, because we want to preserve as many of our historical homes as we can.
Yeah, I understand that. I just said you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you lived in a home along in one of the original river lots, it would be
right. I'm just saying being on the inventory doesn't automatically give you the restrictions.
Yeah, it would put a homeowner in a difficult decision, though, in the sense of you would have the Heritage Committee, or pardon me, the Arts and wherever it was, your home has been designated on the inventory, and then you decide, well, I'm going to take it down and I'm going to build a new home. I mean, it would.
You can do that.
I know. I just. Anyways, I'm still looking to say. Go ahead, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. I'm still sharing Councillor Mayor Herron's reservations about moving forward on this year. Mm-hmm. I also think that we need to be discussing whether or not we need to be putting this much money into the budget on an annual basis, considering that has not been any uptake into it to date. And so I'm looking at just the other considerations that we're moving forward with for other budget cuts. And I think that this is for this year, actually, like I think for 2021, I feel comfortable putting it on hiatus entirely for 2021, using whatever we have in reserves if a request does come up. And I'm also thinking that the amount going forward after that should be reduced, just because we aren't seeing the uptake coming in, and we're just putting money into a fund, whereas opposed to having any withdrawals coming out. So that's where I'm at right now. And I'm also thinking I'm prepared to shelve this or send it back to AHF for comment about whether or not it's actually urgent to do it, and whether or not every 10 years is the appropriate timeline to even move forward on this. Because I'm, as Mayor Herron said, like, the number of old buildings is the same. We don't build new old buildings. So I'm not expecting this to actually change significantly, if at all. And I don't want to be putting $81,000 or $65,000, either one, into something just to have the list come back to be confirmed that, yeah, that's still the same number that we had before. I'm expecting that the first review was thorough enough that it should have caught 99% of those things. And I personally don't want to spend $81,000 so that one more could be on the list, especially considering that the homeowners realize that in spite of potentially getting some cost benefit, there's also a significant amount of potential limitations and downside for them for resale value and other expectations for them, which is why I think that they were not seeing the massive uptake. So that's where I'm at, is I personally am prepared to just not do it this year and leave this to a further discussion with AHF and determine what an appropriate timeline should be, if anything, to move forward on this. And like, perhaps they should, if they come back and say we're going to expand it to say it's now up to 1925 or 1935, and that would be a justification that there might be more on the list. But if we're not actually changing the parameters, I don't see a reason to actually update this list. So, and if the motion does pass in just a few days, then I think we can have a different discussion with AHF about how we want to move forward on this, and how we need, if and when these need to be revised. So I just look at all the other cuts that we've been doing, and then we can move forward with this to confirm that we have the same number of buildings that we had before. I have a difficult time justifying these funds right now. So that's where I'm at.
All right, thank you. Councillor Dolly and then Councillor Hanson.
Thanks. I would agree with everything Councillor Hughes just said. And I would also add that, although I'm not particularly comfortable with this budget, I think we should stick to it. And also, from what I remember, I wasn't on council, but I watched the meetings. The budget was intended to support homeowners in keeping their properties a heritage site, because it is so expensive, and so to have it go towards something else is it's a business case that should be brought forward at budget and go through all the normal processes to vet a business case, which I don't think is one here. I don't know. So I would just add that. So I'm not prepared to bring forward the recommended motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hanson.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm disappointed in this conversation, for sure. We've just put 24,000 into the mayor's celebration of the art, and we don't want to take a reserve of 16,000 for our heritage sites. Maybe it's a conversation that we can have with Alberta or with Arts and Heritage Foundation with Anne. Invite her to speak to the meeting that this, if this ends up on a council agenda, to provide us with a little bit more information and scope. We just repealed the AHAC bylaw, and we're asking them to take on our residents under the AHF umbrella. And of course, this would have been some of the work that they would have done. So I'm a little bit miffed as to why the committee wouldn't support this. But I'll do my best to pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, for the $65,000 for clarification, is that all that's remaining of the $125,000 in the reserve, or is that specifically designated to deal with the historic conservation program?
So it's $65,000 a year for the historic conservation program. Whatever isn't spent goes into the reserve. So it's 65 this year, and then we've got to dip into the reserve. Just a quick note as well, additional information. It's my understanding that council did review the committee's work plan either in 2018 or 19, and this was on it and was approved by council as part of their work plan. I'd have to go back though to find the specific reference to that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the additional information. So has the contract been awarded to them for the 81.4?
It has not been awarded, no.
You see that? I mean, I guess, I mean, if 65,000 is what we have, then I don't, I mean, then you would have to come to committee like you have for the 16 additional, but I just saying 65 is what's in the budget. That's nothing. I mean, I think that's pretty strong. I mean, we just had the whole conversation around the community capital grant and what we're willing to give for that. So anyways, I'm looking forward to moving forward because
Carrie has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I understand. I apologize, Carrie, for not seeing you. I'm looking at the small tiles here. Anyways, go ahead.
What I was just going to comment on was the city procurement process. So if the committee wants to delay this, we would have to probably either ask all of the people who submitted bids if they're willing to put their quote on hold for a period of time. However, we're also wanting to go back and starting to negotiate for a lower fee on the contract. It does make it a bit more difficult because we can open up other areas of the bid. So our recommendation was, if council is going to put this on a hiatus or wants us to go and negotiate, is that we would cancel the bid and we'd rebid it at an amount. It would just make it for a much more open and transparent process. So there's a lot of things around procurement that are in the background that can definitely impact or affect the decision that's made.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm still looking. I mean, go ahead, our Mayor Harris. I apologize.
Just a quick question to Carrie. If the bids had come in at 65,000, it wouldn't have come to council or committee at all, would it?
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know everybody's kind of shaking their head here for one reason or the other. Any members of the committee want to move forward the recommendation? Councillor Hughes.
I actually want to bring forward an alternate recommendation, which I managed to type up and has not gotten to the right email address. But it would be that the update to the heritage inventory and properties of interest list is postponed to 2021 following a discussion with AHF.
Fair enough.
And when we have that discussion, it's of no consequence to me because the old buildings will remain old buildings.
So you'd just be moving that on till next, any recommendations as to when, or any thoughts as to when that?
When council meets with AHF, and administration is welcome to go and reach out to AHF and get some feedback. And then after council has their annual discussion with the AHF, which I realize we just had it, but we also typically have it in the spring. We can discuss whether or not the urgency of this and what would be different about the outcomes at that time. And also just their workload and all that sort of thing. So before we defer it to them, I'd like to confirm that, they have the capability to do it and that sort of thing. But that's what I'm suggesting.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I'm obviously you put that forward. Then did Ledge Services, have you received that?
No. I can try to type this up. I typed it to send to myself. And I just need to type it in the chat. So if you can give me 2 minutes, or is it in there already? No, it's not.
Not there yet.
Okay. I have it.
Go ahead. I'm just conscious of our recent conversations with the Arts and Heritage Foundation. I mean, we've basically putting a lot on their plate. So.
I realize that, but that's also the reason why they're there.
Yeah.
Is to do this, right? And we have a motion ahead of us in a week's time to discuss it, changing the bylaw. So, and the reality is I personally don't even know if it's been done 2021 either. I'm saying we'll have a discussion with them and then we'll discuss the proper timelines about when this should move forward. And perhaps unless it can be that we don't move it forward until we actually change the parameters, the definition of what considered a heritage building with dates or something of that nature. So it's very possible that following the discussion, it does not immediately move forward. But I think that we need to have this discussion about when the parameters need to be changed and their workload and continue after that. And I don't see an urgency to do it this year, regardless of what the policy said. So
Fair enough.
I guess that was
Okay. All right, that the discussion of the heritage inventory and properties of interest list be postponed to 2021, and the council have further discussion with Arts and Heritage Foundation. Any idea Q1, Q2?
I don't care. I don't have an urgency on this. So it's just when we can meet with them. And we have an annual meeting, so we know it will get through that point.
I'm just looking at procurement, any issues in relation to, so we haven't hired a consultant. We're just coming back. So we're under no restrictions there.
No, we'd have to cancel the bid process and re-procure after that decision's made.
Okay. All right, good. Then I'm fine with that. Paul, are you okay with 2021 sometime in, being not specific on Q1, 2, or whatever?
Absolutely, no problem at all.
All right. Any comments from any other members of the committee? Okay.
The only Councillor McKay, the only thing I think is that we also need to look at this policy. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we need to have this in the motion or not, but we need to, because it just occurred to me after we already sent it, is that the motion policy is reviewed. I don't know when it's planned to be reviewed next fall.
Councillor Hughes, I'm actually just putting in a budget information request on this right now. So I'll copy on it.
Okay, regarding the policy or?
Yeah.
Okay, great, because I think that that's something that we discussed is we've had it in for a few years and we just need to review to see if we're actually, all the money we're putting into this is necessary. Okay, so if you're doing that already, that's great. That's all I.
Okay. All right. So we've got an amended recommendation here that the discussion of the heritage inventory and properties of interest list be postponed to 2021, and council have further discussion with the Arts and Heritage Foundation. Okay, if there's no more questions, I'll accept that recommendation, motion, whatever you want to call it. Is it a recommendation or a motion?
Motion.
Motion. I'll accept the motion then. Okay, anything additional in opening comments, Councillor Hughes?
I was able to do debate during questions today, so very thorough. So I think I've said everything to say.
Hey, one of the joys of the committee framework. Anything, Councillor Jolly? Nothing. Mayor Herron? No, we're all done there. I just would only add that, I mean, obviously these are important. I mean, and I apologize if we've seen something and we've approved something previously, but I mean, obviously this whole pandemic has put us in a situation where we have to look at all of our funds, no matter what they are. And obviously, since we've only withdrawn $5,000 of this over the time, I think I'm in complete support of having at least a review of it. And it could be quite possible that needs, I mean, that's part of the whole problem. And we needed to actually use some of this money to actually start to get this out into the public where it is actually more known and could actually be utilized. But I guess we can have that debate at budget as to what that amount would be, but I'm also willing to have that when we get to our budget. So that's my only comments. Anything to close, Councillor Hughes?
You know, I think that the inventory list could also just be done by simply sending out brochures and having people also decide if they're interested in contacting the city for more information as well. There's many ways to actually update a list without having to spend $81,000. So I'm just looking forward to having this policy reviewed and deciding whether or not if it needs to be continued in its entirety or if we need to modify it.
Yeah, good comments. I think I agree with you. It obviously needs some review, and I'm glad it's where it is. Anyways, call the question. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. I appreciate the discussion, and I look forward to hearing what Arts and Heritage Foundation comes back with. I think that we need a lot more information in relation to that. So, I mean, at least I do, anyways. And so I don't see anything else on the agenda. I see nothing here. So I will, if there's anything for any comments, questions from around the tiles. I got to tell you, this is awkward. Looking around the screen, I don't control the screen. So So it's hard to see if anybody's waving their hands. So if I've missed anybody throughout this process, I apologize. But anyways, I don't see anything. So I will just declare our meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. And see some of you this afternoon if everybody's showing up for our next one. Thank you. Bye.
Good job, Ken.
Thanks.